Hmm. Just waiting for the confirmation. Okay, we are live. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, awesome. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the listeners. Welcome on another session of WeSkill Live. WeSkill is a live online extracurricular learning platform providing soft skill development through courses on music, arts, and dance for learners from the age group of 4 to 14. Through our initiative of WeSkill Live, we have wanted to connect with thought leaders and experts on the field of parenting and childcare who can share their learnings and their experiences with us. Today, we are extremely fortunate to have Mr. Sushant Kalra with us. He is a former TED speaker and author of the widely popular book called Perfect Parenting. He is also the co-founder of the Pragyan School in Gurgaon, and he's also won multiple national and international awards. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time and connecting with us.
Sorry, thanks.
Awesome. So I think without wasting any time, we should understand and we should actually, through this session, try and absorb as much information out of sir in such a short duration of time. I mean, if I start talking with him, I'm sure he can share for hours, but in this duration of around 30 to 35 minutes, let's try and be as precise and let's try and get as much information from sir. So the first topic that I really want to understand, and I've seen a lot of parents who signed up on our platform really struggle with, is how should they connect with their children, right? I mean, parents have grown up in different environments, different generation. How should really they go about connecting with children?
Wow. That I think the question will take, I think, a couple of
Our,
months to answer.
yeah.
But in short, it's not as as simple. It's not difficult. It's actually simple.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's simple, but it's not easy.
Wow.
I'm saying it's simple. It's not easy because every parent uh, who's gone through it, who's become a parent, would have gone through their own childhood. They would have gone through their own preteen, teen, young adult time.
Yeah.
But what happens is that we start forgetting that, not in terms of incidences, but in terms of our own experiences. And when it comes to parenting, we forget it and we start becoming the parent we were. So
Mm.
it's not too difficult. So connecting would mean, if you really ask me, knowing what is going on with your child
Okay.
and being able to acknowledge it and at the same time appreciate it. Uh, but as a parent, what comes in the way is that when a child comes up and says, I'm not happy or I'm sad, I'm feeling
Yeah.
something difficult. As a parent, my first job becomes in my head to take the child out of that space. If I'm sad and crying and upset or stressed,
Yeah.
we tend to fix it as a parent because we
Mm.
can't see our child in that space.
Yeah.
And the minute we go to fix it, we disconnect.
Wow.
Are you getting me? I don't know.
It's like I'm not a parent right now, but I'm just trying to put myself in the situation
In a child's shoe and
as
be your parent.
yeah,
So that way
yeah,
you will get to understand it. So let me say it again. Our anxiety as a parent, as a father or as a mother, to take our children out of a space which is maybe disempowering or not the happy space, overpowers us because we want to fix it and take them out. That is the biggest concern. It's one of the biggest concerns which leads to disconnect. So the first thing to do, if you're saying how can we connect to children, would be to really first get to know their space. Okay.
wow,
Getting to know their space cannot happen by us. So, for example, if I tell you that, okay, feeling like that, or he's facing this situation, or he's in this kind of a space, I'll be the most strong person. I have to ask the child. If I take an
wow,
analogy, very simple analogy, if some person is not well, so for example, if I have fever, uh, would you take my blood test and ask me questions about my health, or you ask my dad? Who would you ask?
yeah,
Or whose blood test would you take?
Yeah, very relevant. Yeah, absolutely.
So you need to speak to the child and ask them about how they are feeling and what are their experiences,
Mm.
right? That's the first step. So parents falter where we think that we know what is happening with the child. So we'll have to step back and say, okay, fine, I don't know, but let me ask. So when I
So,
ask, I get to know what they're going through, and then curb my anxiety or my urgency to fix it versus understand. Understand, acknowledge, and say, okay, fine, this is what you're going through, and I understand you.
so I mean, like, and that, I mean, okay, all right, now I'm just going through so many thoughts because what you said is just so powerful. And that just brings me to, I want to understand from you, because you're saying that parents should kind of be in a situation or put themselves in this position that they understand their children better, right? But there are also a lot of instances of conflict, and which could be due to various situations the parents are not understanding. And uh, if you could just talk a little about these kind of conflicts. I mean, uh, just offhand, if I can remember the kind of conflicts I used to have with my parents, something would be like career would be a big point when they would try and tell me to study, and I was like, no, why should I study? But just if you could talk about, I mean, the reason for conflict is because sometimes parents don't get that. I mean, they have their own interest, which is right in its own space, right? But every parent wants the child to do well, but and they don't want the child. They want the child to be healthy. Like I was a very lazy kid. My parents would always be like, "Go out and play, go out and play." I hate. I would not do that. So, if you could just talk about how should parents, even if they want to solve a child's problem, how should they be in that position and overcome those conflicts?
So conflicts, mostly, if you really ask me, of the last few years, is happening because of studies.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not concentrating on studies. Specifically, in the last couple of years, because of online studies, is becoming
Yeah.
worse. Because those sessions, those classes are not interesting. It's not easy to be online for 7, 8 hours for a couple of years, and parents can see what's happening in that classroom because you're sitting right at home. ठीक है, so एक पढ़ाई के लिए conflict होंगे. Second conflict would be on eating good healthy food versus eating junk. Third would be on your screens. The fourth could be a routine. क्या सुबह उठता नहीं है, सही टाइम पे नहीं करता. The fifth is on their hygiene and their habits. That you have to brush at a particular time, you have to take a bath at a particular time, you have to sit in a particular time, you have to get up at a certain time, you have to sleep at a certain time. So it could be routine. So if you notice, there could be 5 conflicts. Pre-COVID, there were more in terms of who you should befriend,
बाहर जाने की नहीं.
where should you go, should I go out for time out, or should I go out for night outs and all. वो थोड़े से कम हो गए because COVID ने बंद कर दिया. Otherwise, वो भी contentious issues थे. तो फ्रेंड कौन से होने चाहिए, कितनी बात कर सकते हो फोन पे, कितना टाइम उनके साथ स्पेंड करना है. सो ये कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स हैं. बट इफ आई गिव यू अ जेनरिक stuff which will cut across all these issues is 2 things. Okay, first thing first, we need to first create a shift here at a very contextual level. So if I ask you a question, sort of, and you are a sorry you are a child. Okay, you have parents. What do your parents want for you?
I mean, you always want
the best, right? The best, whatever it is. Do they want the best life for you? Absolutely, like no doubts about it. What do you want for yourself?
I also would want the best.
You also want the best for yourself. Your parents also want the best. Your mom also wants the best. Your dad also wants the best. So three people want the best for you, right? If 3 people want the same thing, would they be in the same team or would they be in 2 different teams?
Same.
Would they be in the same team?
Same team.
Take a simple example. What does Virat Kohli want? India to win or South Africa to win?
India to win,
India to win, right? And what does say
Dipper,
say Pant want? He also wants India to win, right? What does Dean Elgar wants?
He wants South Africa.
So Pant and Virat, because they want India to win, they're in the same team. So if you and your parents want the same thing, you're in the same team. So the first contextual difference we have to shift, we have to make here is we are in the same team. Right now, it's the parents against the child and the child against the son, against the parents.
Okay.
हम उसको बोल रहे हैं, वो हमें बोल रहा है, हमें लग रहा है वो हमारे ऊपर है, वो कह रहा है हमारे ऊपर है. अरे guys, you both are in the same team. So
Yeah.
Virat doesn't know how to keep. Virat is not a wicket keeper, right? Pant is a wicket keeper.
Yeah.
He will wicket keep and play for India in his context. Virat will be a batsman and a captain. He will play his role.
Yeah. So I mean,
Play the same.
but,
So the child will play their role, and but they're in the same team. First thing is,
yeah.
guys, we are not in two different teams.
Yeah.
If I lose, my child loses. If a child loses, I still lose.
There's absolutely, yeah.
It's only win-win. If I win and my child win, is when we win.
Yeah.
There is no lose and win. It's not possible. So you're on the same team. First shift, and very critical shift, because we always keep discussing like, यार वो नहीं मान रहा है और मम्मी पापा नहीं मान रहे हैं, as if we are in two different teams and we want different things. And it's, as I said, it's very simple. It's very logical. But again, it's not easy. Why it's not easy is the second point. The second point is everybody has a different view. You want the best, but your view of achieving that best is X. Your father's view of achieving that best is Y. And your mother's view of achieving that best is Z.
Yeah.
So think about it. There are three people. They all want the best, but their view of how that their best can happen has three views. Right? And the discussion, then the fight happens because we have different views.
Absolutely.
So the good news is, or the bad news is, whatever you want first. Good news or the bad news? I'll give the choice to you.
Let's go for the bad news first.
Bad news first, your views will never match. Will never match. Don't even try it.
Yeah.
It's like I put a piece of a fruit, the same fruit. If I cut the same apple and put it into three pieces and give it to all of you, each one of you will have a different taste. Because your palate is different, the way you taste anything is different. So your views will never, ever, ever match. You want to know the good news? The good news is your views will never match. So if you don't match, don't even try to match them. What I'm saying is good news because don't even try. They will never going to match. The answer lies in those are views. Each of them are views. Each of them are not facts.
Yeah.
There are multiple ways to reach the best. Can we sit down together? Listen to each other's views. Abhi kya hota hai? If I have a view, I give it to you. You will give me back your view. नहीं ऐसे नहीं होता, ऐसे होता है. The third person will say नहीं ऐसे होता है. So what will happen is the clashes happen.
Yeah.
And these three views will be different and clashes will happen. I'm saying if you consider them as views and listen to each other as a view, यार ये उसका view है, ये मेरा view है, ये तीनों view है. चल तीनों रखते हैं. Let's keep all the three views on the table and let's talk about it. I can promise you, after that discussion, the answer is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah. But sir, I mean, there's something to understand here, like, and I completely agree that views also keep on evolving and changing, right?
Absolutely.
And like for the child, let's say, like, उसके भी views कुछ साल में change हो सकते हैं.
सबके
हो सकता है कि ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि उसने अपने like he's had that conversation कि उसको कुछ चीज करनी चाहिए, कुछ होना चाहिए, and कुछ साल बाद उसको लगता है नहीं कुछ और होना चाहिए. How should parents help in understand, like, और क्या करना चाहिए पेरेंट्स को so that वो बच्चे के पास एटलीस्ट वो फ्रीडम हो वो चीज समझने का. I mean, independent thought itself is a skill, for the lack of a better word, I would say. So how do you think कि मतलब ऐसा क्या environment होना चाहिए जो parents को देना चाहिए that the child can A, develop those views, B, articulate them. मतलब बहुत बार ऐसा भी होता है कि and I know a lot of my friends, right, who wanted to perhaps, let's say, study something else. I was fortunate enough to not to get the kind of support from my family to pursue a little kind of perceived off-stream path, but I'm sure a lot of people I know who wanted to but could not. So क्या मतलब parents को ऐसा क्या करना चाहिए? I mean, at the end of the day, they also just consider it, right? कि बच्चा
अच्छा
ऐसा
कर।
कुछ अच्छा करे, ऐसा ना करे, मतलब एटलीस्ट इंजीनियरिंग करे तो मतलब जॉब लग जाएगी, गारंटी होगी वो। बट आई मीन क्या करना चाहिए पेरेंट्स को भी कि बच्चे के पास एक तो वो व्यू बनाने की क्षमता हो, एंड वो उसके बारे में बात करने का मौका मिले उसको।
तो शौर्य, वन ऑफ द मिथ्स आई वांट टू ब्रेक फॉर यू इज कि व्यूज बनाने की और थिंकिंग की एबिलिटी हर एक के पास है। एवरी ह्यूमन बीइंग हैज इट। Point is, everybody does not get the space to speak it out. And if we don't get the space to speak it out, it gets suppressed. So even if people who are not able to share their views, do they have views? The answer is yes. If I say something right now, and anybody who's watching us right now, everybody who's watching this or listening to this will have a view.
बिल्कुल।
Somebody will say, I agree. I don't agree. I agree with this. I don't agree with this. Your mind has views, yeah. Your mind is supposed to. That's the job of your brain. तो ऐसा कोई इंसान नहीं है जिसके पास व्यूज नहीं है, ठीक है. द पॉइंट इज, डिड दे गेट द स्पेस टू एक्सप्रेस इट? द पीपल हु गॉट द स्पेस टू एक्सप्रेस इट, उनका वो नर्चर हो गया. जिनको नहीं मिली स्पेस वो सप्रेस हो गया. तो जो तो बाहर दिखते हैं कि यार ये इंट्रोवर्ट हैं, ये बोल नहीं पाते हैं, वो अंदर बहुत बोलते हैं यार. स्पेस मिलेगा वो बोलेंगे. एंड इंट्रोवर्ट इज कैन नॉट बी, आई एम नॉट मेट अ इंट्रोवर्ट हु इज इंट्रोवर्ट एवरीवेयर. इंट्रोवर्ट विल बी वेरी टॉकेटिव विद हिज फ्रेंड्स, विद हिज क्लोज फ्रेंड्स. तो वो इंट्रोवर्ट कैसे हो गया? थॉट उसकी भी है, उसके पास भी है, जहां स्पेस मिलेगा वो बोलेगा. So the point is, can we give them space? You know, the maximum views are shared by a 3-year-old, 4-year-old.
वाह।
हर एक चीज पे व्यू मारते हैं ना, ये ठीक है, ये ठीक है, ये कौन सा कलर है, कहाँ जा रहे हो, क्यों जा रहे हो, ये मतलब they have to say everything about something about everything. So views सबके पास है. So can we get the space? So the point is, can we hear them out as their view?
वाह।
That's it. If you give them the space कि ठीक है वो बोल रहा है, बोलने दो. The second myth I want to really break, and I want to close this conversation with everybody in their head itself. ना बोलते हैं ये भी बच्चा है. Always, अरे ये छोटा है, he's a child or she's a child, और ये भी बच्ची है. The minute that thought comes in, ये भी बच्चा है, ये बच्ची है, immediately the second thought is कि अभी ये mature नहीं हुआ है, ये अभी ना उस level पे नहीं हुआ है, ये समझ नहीं सकेगा. So I'll say something confronting, but the minute you say somebody is a child or somebody छोटा है या छोटी है, बच्चा है, बच्ची है, automatically the second thought in our head is कि they may not be able to handle what you're talking about. ये उसको बताएं ना बताएं, तो बच्चा बच्ची child comes with कि यार there is something less about that. So I want to close this conversation altogether. If I ask you a question, a 2-year-old child, is he or she a human?
Absolutely, yes.
So can we remove this whole thought कि ये बच्चा है, बच्ची है, child है? Can we say, is he or she human? The answer is yes. Can I talk to him or her like a human?
Yeah.
Like, can we delete this whole conversation about being a child or a bacha or bachi?
Wow.
Human, can I relate to a human being as a human? अरे ये बच्चा इसके साथ कुछ भी कर लो, नहीं यार. That's a human being. The only difference between that human being and me is that I spent maybe 50 years more on this earth. That's about it. वो भी इंसान है, उसका भी एक नाक है, उसका भी उतना ही दिमाग है, मेरा भी उतना ही है, उसके पास भी 2 आंखें, मेरे पास भी 2 आंखें. कुछ ऐसा नहीं है जो मेरे पास है उसके पास नहीं है, उसके पास है मेरे पास नहीं है. So what we need to do, again, Shaurya, what I mentioned at the start was that we as parents have forgotten. Yeah, when we were growing, we also had different views. So view limited tha because of limited time on earth. That's about it. Limited experience. But I have my views. If I am able to share it out, and the person who's the closest to me and my parents are able to give me that space ki haan bol. And giving them space does not mean that you're agreeing with them. Giving them spaces ki yaar, let me think. हाँ तो बोल तो सही, जो भी तेरे दिमाग में बोल दे. वो गलत है, ठीक है, नहीं है, doesn't matter. Can you just speak it out? And by the way, जब हम बच्चे थे, जब हम एडोलेसेंट थे, जब हम टीनेजर्स थे, तो हम भी एक्सप्रेस करना चाहते थे. उस टाइम पे बड़े कहते नहीं चुप करो, तुम नहीं समझोगे, तुम अभी ऐसे हो, तुम. उस वक्त बहुत गुस्सा चढ़ता था कि अरे यार सुनो तो सही. बोलने तो दो. But we also went through the same space.
Yeah.
But when we became parents, we actually forgot.
Yeah.
तो यार वही स्पेस हमें चाहिए थी, दे दो ना यार.
Hmm.
तुम्हें भी चाहिए थी, चलो तुम्हें नहीं मिली, मान लिया. बट अब तो सोच लो कि यार हमें चाहिए थी, तो बच्चा भी उसी एज में दे दो उसको स्पेस. प्रॉब्लम क्या है?
I don't know. I think talking to you, I am getting this feeling that parenting or understanding that, I mean, just parenting itself is a skill. So, is it? I mean, or what do you call it? Is it what? How would you put it? Is it a science? Is it skill? Is it an art? And is it?
It's a
I
mix.
mean,
Okay, it can't be said it's a science or
yeah,
it's an art or it's a skill. By the way, if you really ask me, and I keep telling people and people get shocked. Parenting does not come naturally.
okay.
Because we do most of our things from our subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Okay? When we learn something new, it's very conscious. So by the time we were learning walking, even walking was very conscious. We were so conscious about putting our foot on. When we started learning cycling, it was very conscious. When we started driving, it was very, very conscious.
Yeah.
यार कुछ गड़बड़ ना हो जाए, मेरे को ये मतलब हैंडल भी संभालना है, मेरे को उसका क्या कहते हैं उसको, ड्राइविंग व्हील भी संभालना है और नीचे क्लच और वो सब भी देखना है, इधर हैंडल भी, इधर गियर देखना है, सामने लोग देखने हैं, पीछे रियर व्यू मिरर देखना है, साइड व्यू मिरर देखना है. We were conscious about it. After a while, when it became natural, it came into our subconscious. Okay, so we are driven by a subconscious mind. So subconscious mind is based on purely experience. कि हमारा बचपन में क्या experience था उससे आ रहा है. But we need to know that we are not our child. Our child is different.
Yeah.
We can't operate from our subconscious in our past. That was me in the 1970s, 80s. A child is living in 2020.
Yeah.
We're talking different person, different world, different thoughts, different feelings. So I need to learn this art of how a child behaves and what can I do. It cannot come from my subconscious.
So you were saying this itself can be learned or acquired. I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%.
wow. Okay.
I'll just quickly take a minute to talk about
Yeah.
my own story. Okay. So when I got married, when we got married, me and Monica, we were clear that we don't want to have kids.
Oh.
We were so clear we don't have to have kids because we saw parents struggling. We said, यार ये ना पीछे पड़ा हुआ है यार, मतलब खाता नहीं है, पीता नहीं है, सोता नहीं है, चलता नहीं है, बोलता नहीं है. इनका कोई फायदा नहीं है. There's no point getting a life in this world and then running after them. It's exasperating when we saw parents around. And the other thing is when we spoke to those children, they said, यार parents कोई काम ही नहीं है, पीछे पड़े रहते हैं. हम सो रहे होते हैं, उठ जाओ, उठे हो तो सो जाओ, पढ़ाई कर
You
लो.
ask any teenager, यही बोलेंगे.
कहते हैं फिर यार, we are not making life great for ourselves or for that. Why have a life come into this world?
Yeah.
So that was the point, and we pushed. So we wanted. But in India, I can ask you if I tell you, it's almost impossible to get married and not have children. People will not leave you. We had our first kid after about 6 years of marriage, 6.5 years. And I said, yeah, there has to be a way. So what I said to myself that day is that I don't know parenting. When I said I don't know parenting, the second thought was, what if I don't know parenting? For example, you need to drive and you say I don't know how to drive, then what would you
do? I would like to learn about it.
Exactly. Then you will say मेरे को सीखना है.
हाँ.
ठीक है, you won't say चल यार गाड़ी उठाता हूँ चलाता हूँ. अगर तुमने गाड़ी उठाई और चलानी शुरू कर दी तो भाई साहब या तो लोग मर जाएंगे 2-4, या तुम पेड़ में मार दोगे, दीवार में मार दोगे, पोल में मार दोगे, गाड़ी फूट जाएगी. Now, if you take the same analogy in parenting, we say हमें parenting आती है और हम ना गाड़ी उठा लेते parenting या चलाते हैं. What you see around is exasperation, damage, the depression in our country. 37% of teenagers in our country are depressed.
Wow.
Teenage suicide, but children's suicide increased at a rate of 20.12% last year. 20% increase in children committing suicide in our country in 1 year.
Wow.
Stress because of examinations increasing. Drug addiction in children increasing. Alcoholism increasing. Children getting into sexual act increasing. it's like we driving that car of parenting without knowing how to drive, and the damage is palpable. And we are not also enjoying our parenting journey. और ना driving भी ना ऐसी, मतलब you speak to any parents, I'm telling you, 99 out of 100 parents will say यार बहुत मुश्किल है. Thankless job. At the end of the day, you don't get anything about it, and it's never-ending job.
And became just more difficult during COVID. Everyone was locked in.
Absolutely. तो यार वो जब ड्राइविंग नहीं आती तो आराम से सीख लो ना यार. Why do you have to damage the people around on the road and damage your vehicle and have a bad experience of driving? हम ड्राइविंग सीखने लगे तो फर्स्ट पॉइंट तो से क्या मुझे नहीं आती तो सीख लो. And there are enough and more available. I'm not saying that Parvarish is the only place. Yeah, there are people who are there. It's a well researched. In the last 30 years, the amount of research which has happened in this sphere of parenting and child development is humongous.
Yeah.
But the first thing you'll have as a parent have to say is कि नहीं आता. नहीं आता सीख लेते हैं. Not a big deal. It's not rocket science.
Wow.
A longish answer to your short question, but why an experience of driving without learning how to drive? कि हाँ ठीक है गाड़ी उठाते हैं देखा जाएगा. फोड़ दो मार दो दो चार फोड़ दो गाड़ी फूट जाएगी खराब हो जाएगा. क्यों करना है? There are enough driving schools. Go learn it.
And just okay, I'm just quite stunned here because I was personally not aware of this kind of data that is there.
Yes, and this is all our published numbers. I'm not talking about. I'm not cooking them up.
Yeah. So I mean, what should be the first step? The first step to solve a problem is to first understand that the problem exists.
Absolutely.
So when parents को कैसे समझ आए कि उनको जरूरत है, मतलब like parenting के बारे में सीखने की. Should every parent go with the mindset कि यार मुझे नहीं आता, मुझे सीखना चाहिए, or are just some people better at it? You just share some insight on this.
Yeah, can people do that alone without a support? The answer is yes. It's not that you have to go to somebody to learn it. सीख सकते हैं, not a big deal. But the first step to say it यार अभी naturally नहीं आती.
Yeah.
Second thing is, sorry, just repeat that question. I forgot a point. You were saying something.
Yeah, just want to understand that parents, when should they learn? Like, how should they understand कि उनको सीखना चाहिए?
Got it. So I was saying that for a parent, if I ask you, and if I go to your parent, I go to my parent. If I do any parent in this world and ask them one question: who's the most important person in your life? What do you think your dad will say?
Me or my sister.
You or sister. Yeah. Both. You can't even choose to say both, right?
Yeah.
Even if your mother is sitting there, they'll say these two are more important.
Yeah. Till date.
Period. Nothing wrong with it. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
So if you are the most important person in my life, then why should I even think of taking a chance? Like, you want to take a chance with the most important, the most loving person who you would do anything for. तो इतनी जान, मतलब लोग बोलते हैं ना बच्चों में जान बसी हुई है. अगर उसमें जान बसी हुई है तो why take a chance? Can you do it? Sure. Learn for yourself. Take any support required. यार मतलब वो इतनी important चीज है तो उसके लिए सोचना क्यों है? खुद करना है श्योर, किसी से सपोर्ट लेनी है श्योर, बट इंपॉर्टेंट है ना यार. गाड़ी चलाई, गाड़ी ठोक दी, दोबारा आ जाएगी. बच्चे की लाइफ खराब हो गई तो दोबारा कहां से आएगी?
If I were to just
and it is getting worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you ask me कि उसका assessment कैसे करूं कि किसको करना चाहिए नहीं करना चाहिए, very simple but very confronting way. So if I ask, you won't get this experience, but if I ask anybody, any parent who's listening to us right now, yeah, जब पहले दिन, and sure you can ask this question to your parents, by the way, it'll be interesting. उनको बोलो कि यार 1 मिनट 30 seconds के लिए अपनी आंखें बंद करो. And you're elder or your sister is elder?
I'm younger.
You're the younger. So उनको बोलो कि just close your eyes for 30 seconds and remember the moment when your sister was born and they held her in their arms for the first time.
Yeah.
Just ask them to just experience it for 30 seconds. Any parent doing this exercise right now will experience it. Yeah, वो experience ना exquisite था.
Mm.
वो ना describe ही नहीं हो सकती. वो था कि magical moment थी. The world came to a standstill. You can't even get it.
Yeah.
Ask your mom and dad, and you can ask them.
Yeah.
Is our day-to-day parenting experience that
Mm.
is it that exquisite, beautiful, amazing, loving experience that you got that day? Is your day-to-day experience like that? If your answer is yes, you don't need to learn it. You're doing it perfect. But if your answer is no, then there is a huge scope because that is possible. Rather than a coach, if I talk to you like a father, I was
Yeah.
21, my son will be 22 this year, my daughter will be 16 in a couple of months. Do I get that experience every day? The answer is yes. Just came back late last night from a holiday with four of us. And it was a ball.
Wonderful.
Every second spent is it so but issues come up 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do I have gathered the ability to solve them with complete harmony, love, and expression right there? The answer is yes. But the experience is wow, I became a parent every day.
Wow.
If you can't say that, then there is
Yeah.
still to learn. And
Yeah.
it's possible.
Yeah. I think this is just wonderful. And if I would like kind of sum up what you were saying in using your example, I mean, parents really want कि अपने बच्चे के लिए best हो. So वो गाड़ी पे खर्चा कर रहे हैं, गाड़ी पे टाइम स्पेंड कर रहे हैं. बट अगर सेम तरीके से चलाएंगे तो ठोकेगी, राइट? So
Best of the cars will do that.
so even if you have like a Nano or a BMW, it doesn't matter if you drive it the same way.
Yeah.
So
And one thing which I want to say to all parents, is that who your child is meeting every day is not the real you. The real you is that loving, caring, unconditional love person for your child, which normally does not get communicated in your communications or your conversations or your actions.
yeah.
But your child is waiting for it. तो बच्चा भी वेट कर रहा है और फादर को भी चाहिए, मदर को भी चाहिए. तो कल ना यार मुझे थोड़ा सा सीखना पड़ता है उसके लिए. It's worth its weight in, I think, gold, diamond, platinum, whatever you call it.
Wow, this is just amazing. And just if you could talk a little bit about Parvarish and your book, right? I mean, your book, Perfect Parenting. And I've read so many reviews about it. I saw Dr. Swaroop's review of it, and it it just is not just. I would not even want to use the word informative. I think it's not informative. I think it's an experience. The whole book. So I mean, how should like you've told about the parents should explore this domain, and I wish some of our listeners do take up the time and just kind of read up a little bit about this. But if you could just talk about how is Parvarish your organization? How are you approaching this problem, and how are you solving it?
Oh. So let me just start from with that. So Rupa Publications came to us and told me that, can you write a 100 tips for parents kind of a book? I said,
Hmm.
tips do not work.
Yeah.
So what parents normally do is they go on to Google. If they're facing some issue, they'll Google it. अच्छा ये issue कैसे solve करना है? कोई article आ जाएगा, कोई comment आ जाएगा. They will read it and they'll try and implement. I can promise you will fail. 1 in a million will fail. 1 in a million may pass.
Hmm.
Then we come up कि यार कोई फायदा नहीं है पढ़ने का, कुछ नहीं होगा. Because tips don't work.
Yeah.
Right? This is a human being. Every human being is unique. One thing cannot fit all. It's impossible. So I said I can't write a book on tips. If I write the book on tips, it will be a biggest disaster.
Hmm.
Not for me. You will sell it well. Maybe I'll get the money, but it will be a biggest disaster for a person who will read it.
Read it. Yeah.
जाके कुछ implement करेगा और वो fail हो जाएगा, guaranteed. So he said, what do you want to write? I said, this is a very experiential thing. It's a tool thing.
Hmm.
What we do is we train parents on those tools.
Okay.
I can't tell you your parent to do X, Y, Z with Shaurya and सब कुछ हो जाए. because you and your children, your sister are very different.
Yeah.
If you do the same thing with you and with your sister, both of you will react differently.
Absolutely.
I mean, your experience.
Yeah.
So, one size fits all possibly. Even if you were twins, it can't fit.
Mm.
So this is about tools. So the book and what our work is all about, that how, so what we say is that, and a lot of people said perfect parenting, does it exist?
Mm.
So I said, yeah, every parent in this world is a perfect parent.
Yeah.
Every parent. And every child is perfect.
Yeah.
People think, yeah, मैं ठीक नहीं हूँ या बच्चे ठीक नहीं हैं. I cannot, दोनों perfect हो. And in what we need to create within the perfect parent and a perfect child is a perfect blend of parenting.
Yeah.
That is what the missing point is, where the stuff gets difficult and we don't get results. So this book and our entire process is about how can you, each one of us,
Yeah.
create a perfect blend of that parenting so that we gel together.
Mm.
And that blend for you, if I take your example, the blend which you will have with your parents will be different from the blend they will have with your sister.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
if you learn how to do that, then you'll be able to create that perfect blend.
Mm.
So the book is all about those tools. And our program is all about those tools. So it's not just कि यार तुम्हें ये दे दिया ये कर लो ये मत करो ये मत करो. My request to anybody and everybody listening is first, please हाथ जोड़ रहा हूँ. Parenting tips मत पढ़ो और ना कभी implement करना. That is a disaster for you and your child.
Yeah.
And then you lose hope on कि यार ये सब बकवास है.
Mm.
There is a process behind it.
Okay.
And we are talking about this process. So every human being, so the theme of Parvarish is that every human being is born with unlimited power. We call it, they're born no limit.
Mm.
So your child is capable of everything, whether your child is born under a flyover or your child is born towards a kingdom. As a human being, you're born with unlimited potential. And there are elements of those potential. And as a parent, if you are able to focus on those elements,
Yeah.
and if you want, I can just share those elements which are there. So you can look at any human being, any child. And why I'm saying child is because that's an undamaged child.
Mm.
A child of about 2.5, 3 year old who's not yet been damaged. So they're happy. They are self-expressed. They are very high on self-confidence. They are very inquisitive. They are very exploring. You want to explore everything.
Yeah.
They never give up. They are humane. They are full of self-esteem. They're very high on their self-esteem.
Yeah.
And we are born self-reliant and wanting to be independent.
Mm.
These 9 qualities that I've said are present in every human being. As the process, we coach, not just coach, but handhold parents. Yeah, if I am able to focus on these 9 qualities,
Mm.
just imagine a human being who's happy, who's self-expressed, who's high on self-confidence, high on self-esteem, is inquisitive, has exploring ability, never gives up in their life, is humane, is responsible, and is, yeah, that's it, 9, right? Just imagine a human being with these 9 qualities. Everything is possible for this human being.
Yeah.
And if as a parent, you can learn the tools to nurture these 9 qualities, then this person can do anything in their life. And that's the entire philosophy, that's the entire work we do. And
Wow.
it's possible for everything. So we've worked with, as I said, we've done this work with the tribals of the Bhil community.
Okay.
When we first met them, they said, "यार आप तो दिल्ली से आ रहे हो, तुम हमें क्या समझोगे? We don't have tools, we don't have the resources, we don't have the
Yeah.
money." I said, "Hang on यार, हम 2 दिन मिल रहे हैं, देख लेना.
Mm.
अगर चल जाएगा तो ग्रेट, नहीं चलेगा तो बेकार हो जाएंगे.
Mm.
आ गए हो 2 दिन के लिए तो मजे करते हैं."
Mm.
And if you want to listen to their views, it's there on our YouTube channel. Sure, most welcome to check out Parvarish on YouTube, and you will, in some of the videos, you will see the people who arranged for it, what did they say about it, and the people who attended it, what they say about it. They actually said in 195, said, "अरे यार ये तो हम घर पे कर लेंगे." That was their expression at the end of the day. कि, "अरे यार ये तो हम कर लेंगे." So from the Bhil community, tribals to American parents have done it, Chinese parents have done it,
Yeah.
Japanese parents have done it. I'm excluding Indian parents. So approximately 2.5 lakh parents across the world would have done these programs.
Wow.
So it's right. It's that whole child development model works,
Mhm.
and that's what we do.
Wow, this is just an amazing insight, an amazing experience. I think a lot of parents should check out Parvarish, should check out Perfect Parenting. We'll be putting some of the links in the description below so that parents can reach out to Sushant's organization and know a lot more about how can they also learn. But I think today's conversation is just amazing. Like I had not expected that this conversation would go into such dimensions that would not just be very tangible, but be very insightful and something that a lot of parents should think about. Also, I think anyone who's being a part of this conversation will go back thinking about what they have done, how they've. If they are a parent, how they've been with their child. If they're a child, how have their parents been with them? I mean, through this conversation, I was trying to gauge how have my parents been with me ever since, and I just think this is a wonderful conversation. I think we've run out of time, but thank you so. I mean, we actually extended the time because this conversation just went just in such dimensions, which
And
I
so
think are very
keep
important.
talking about it for a couple of months.
Yeah, yeah. But thank you so much, Sushant. It's a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for your time. I know you've been having a lot of engagements, but it's
By the way,
been a
sir,
wonderful.
I actually, in one of my travels, I had gifted this book to a air hostess, and
Yeah,
she was a young one. She's not even married. Okay, I said
yeah,
I wanted to gift her something at that point of time because she did something which was very like a customer service extra
yeah.
customer service happening. I said, yeah, I have to gift you something. So I had my book with me and signed it off and gave it to her. After a month, she wrote back to me and saying that I read it. I thought, why should I read about
Yeah,
something? I'm not even married right now.
yeah,
And her feedback was that it should be read by all children also. That
yeah,
I could get a lot of stuff that how can I be with my parents?
absolutely.
So I had not written that in my mind. It was only purely written for parents. But her comment about reading it as a child
Yeah,
came back after about a month.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think all children should also understand that parents are also still learning, and parenting itself is a lifelong learning process. So on that note, thank you so much, Sushant, for your time. It's been a pleasure, and thank you so much, our listeners. We at WeSkill Live will be connecting with such thought leaders, and will be bringing out their life experiences and learnings relating to parenting and childcare. Thank you so much, Sushant. Have a good evening, and thank you so. And stay safe.
Yeah.